So it's first day of spring at Neversink Farm, and my hands get itchy in the spring to get seedlings started. And this year I'm going to have my own little garden, so I may have gotten a little too itchy and started things a little too early. So I'm just going to pot them on. Nothing likes to be potted on more than tomatoes. I love it. Tomatoes for me are the start of the garden. And everything grows out around it. It's just because I love them so much. Alright, so potted these on a while ago and probably waited a bit long to plant them. But as long as they look healthy, it's going to be fine. They're nice and bright green, and so they're going to be okay. But because they're so big, I'm just going to give them a quick trimming, and we're just going to take the suckers off, and I'm going to stay away from the top. I'm going to let that develop a bit more before we do it. That one just needed a few. Just going to reattach them to the stick. Okay, again, I'm just going to stay away from the top and just take any suckers off the bottom. It's just easier to do it now than to after I plant them. Okay, you can see this one has a lot. So I just got to choose. And the rule of thumb on this is whichever one has the tomato on it, right, which is right here. So the sucker, what you're removing is the little growth that's between where the leaf hits the stem. And when they're small, they can just be removed with your thumb. When they're bigger, you have to clip it. And that just, all that is you're training to a single stem. That's all that means. All right? And these are just huge, huge ones. All right, so I'm just getting these big ones, plucking out the smaller ones. There's a big one that I got to clip. And then I'll just reattach it. Okay. 1, 2. So same thing, even though it's a bigger one, you just stick your hands.
Oh yeah.
Slide it right off.
Do a lot of popping.
Yeah. There you go. And you don't have to plant them deep. you can, you can plant them the size that the pot that they're in, and they'll be okay. If they're not, it's all about the strength of the plant. Just good potting soil, caring for them, potting them on when they need it. So we're going to come back after they grow a bit and we'll discuss how to trellis them and keep them upright. All right, so I want to talk about tomatoes and getting to start to trellis them. I planted these, well over a month ago probably, and just ignored them as they grew, but now's the time to definitely clean them up. And I may be a little bit late, but the best way to get them started is you want to get them to a single leader. And that just means that you're one single vine. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it and how to trellis them up. All right, so I'm just going to start with the first one and start taking off anything that's coming off the main vine, right? Which these are just called suckers. The way I choose which is the main stem, when it's bushy like this, is you first want to see which is the biggest stem, right? And also, when there's a branch, and you have a branch of two stems, whichever one has a fruiting spur first is most likely your main stem, right? So if this one has a fruiting spur up here, but this one has a fruiting spur down here, then this is going to be your main stem. And so I just look for that, right? And a fruiting spur, right? All that is where you have a little branch covered with flowers, and that's a fruiting spur, right? So if we look at these two, right? Yeah, this is obviously bigger, but if it wasn't and they were the same size, you can see this has no fruiting spur up to here, but this one does. So that means you're gonna eradicate that one, right? And we just keep using that practice until we get it down to just one stem. And you want to be careful that you don't cut off the growing tip, right? The growing tip is going to be the top of your stem, right? And the plant grows from here. You cut that off, you're going to have to wait for another sucker to come in so that you can follow that up, right? And when you cut them off, cut them close to the plant. See, we're almost there. See, that's your stem right here. But I want to cut off the leaves off the bottom too, right? You see, they're getting old. They're getting old. There's no use for them anymore, and they're not getting sunlight, and so there's no need to have them. Right, and then we have our first one done. Right, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the same thing to each one of these plants, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to get them trellised. All right, so I have all the plants pruned up to a single stem, and I put in some nice strong support, and you want to put it every 2 or 3 plants. But 3 is the most to do this method, and this is really the weave method, where I'm going to weave string in between them and making like a basket weave. You can, however, if you want, support each one on one stake. But the problem is being able to tie it onto it, that you'd have to leave a lot of room so that it doesn't injure the plant or strangle it. So I find this one's a little bit better, is just to be able to weave it. The third option is to build some structure where you can use a string coming down and trellis it onto the string by using tomato clips. But you have to build a quite strong structure for that, because it's going to be a lot of weight. Hopefully you have big tomatoes, and it's going to be, you know, each plant will be full of tomatoes, be really heavy, and so that support will have to be strong enough to hold them. And it doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm choosing this one because it's a short run, and I like to move my tomatoes around. I don't want to move the structure around, and this is just really, really easy to do. Okay, and you want to weave every 8 to 12 inches when you're doing this. And you can start early. You don't have to start later like me, and it just makes it easier. Okay, and you just want to walk down and cut it when you get to the end. Give yourself a little extra. And then this way you just have it rolled up in your hand to be able to weave with. Okay, and the first time, if they're long, it's not going to be the easiest thing. Okay, when you get to the next one, you don't have to tie a knot, you just wrap it around, then go under the string, and that should hold it in place. And you're just going every other side of the plant. And as you go, pulling very, very tight, so you have a nice taut string for the tomatoes to lean against. And the plants are just leaning against this structure. And as I move up in the weave, you'll start to see then when you get to the end, then you can tie off your knot. This is when the magic starts happening, because now you're going to go on the opposite side of the plant. And at this point, the plant should be getting off the ground. And plants really, they don't like to be on the dirt, right? They want to be up off the ground, which is kind of strange, right? Because they're not going to be up off the ground without our intervention, but they are just much happier in the wind where they get dried off. They get more sunlight. The fruits aren't on the ground.
on each side so it doesn't break, right?
That's correct.
And so it doesn't.
That's exactly right, Riv.
Papa, oh no. You almost scratched it on yourself.
Okay, so as the plant grows, I'm just going to keep adding another string. And if you have big heavy plants, you can, do them more often so they're closer together. And if you have some that aren't cooperating, you can just loosely tie it to the string just to keep it upright a little bit until it supports its own weight. Okay, but keep it loose. And right, and then as it gets strong, you won't have to do that anymore. And the more weaves you have, the stronger this lattice becomes. As long as your stakes are good and secure, and get them, the deeper they are in the ground, the more secure they're going to be. All right, so they've grown a little bit, and I'm going to put another weave on it, like you're going to do throughout their growth. And at this point, I'm not training to a single leader because it's not really necessary anymore. Just want to keep them clean. Okay, and they probably got some green tomatoes on them. And people ask, should I take any tomatoes off? And a plant that's really small and can't seem to handle it, it's probably better to take it off. It's better to let the plant grow than have the tomatoes on there. But if it's already healthy, then, you could leave it on there. So it just depends on the size of the plant, right? So if it's going to fruit really fast, then just want to take care of it.